Okay, guys, we have another egg. At this rate, by the end of January, we're going to have a full carton of alien eggs. Now, this has just broke on 4chan, okay? There's been a new whistleblower that has released footage and photos of another egg retrieval that took place in Antarctica in 2022. And located next to this egg was a pod that they allegedly found an extraterrestrial with, which we have photos of. Okay, so this person is on 4chan. It's anonymous. They have been asked. There's a full thread, okay? So it's not just the photos. There's a whole bunch of responses to questions that people have asked this person, which I've collected all, and we're going to go through all of them today. They've been asked about extraterrestrials, Jake Barber, Ross Coulthart, the origins of humanity and the Earth, and the responses are extremely interesting. Now, guys, remember, this is a news show. We talk about things that are going on. There is no definitive proof for this, which means we should approach it with skepticism. But the images and the video are certainly interesting. Now, additionally, if you don't know what 4chan is, it's basically the most degenerate and stinky corner of the internet. And that is because it favors anonymity. It allows users to post anonymously, which allows people to be the worst version of themselves. Now, it also allows people to create LARPs and hoaxes, which is why discernment is required when we look at this story. So like I said, got all the footage, got all the responses, got all the photos, and we're going to run through it all together. It did start to get a little bit strange around halfway through because of the anonymity of 4chan. It kind of seemed like the thread got hijacked and people were taking control of the questioning and responding with fake answers. So after halfway through, the person then got their own username and it kind of regained a little bit of traction. But we're going to go through all of that. We'll go through all the statements this person made, the footage, the photos, and then I'll tell you what I think about it all at the very end. Now, guys, by the way, my name is Josh. This channel is Polarity. If you've been enjoying the content, please subscribe, like the video, share it around, all that good stuff, because it really does help. So like last time when we looked at the alien photos that surfaced recently, I wanted to give a little bit of context of the area, just like we did with Peru. So we're going to look at Antarctica and why this area already has a whole bunch of strangeness going on. So this alleged retrieval of an egg took place in the Queen Elizabeth Ranges, which is a mountain range in Antarctica. So I looked it up on Google Earth, which we can see here, and straight away, when we got to this area, something clicked in my mind. This section here, recently, only a couple of months ago, I was listening or watching something about Antarctica, and it was someone who had evidence, photographic evidence, of the way an area of Antarctica had been sort of covered up or manipulated on Google Earth over the years. And they had sort of like a copy of this area from like, you know, the mid 2000s and then every couple of years, and how strange it looked. And I swear it was this area, this little streak here with this mountain range. Now, I tried to dig it up to put into this video, and I swear it was on a coast to coast clip, but I couldn't find it, unfortunately. So if that rings a bell for anyone, please drop it in the comments. But as you can see, though, already, pretty much right where we zoomed into, this place doesn't load properly. This is as high fidelity as Google Earth will get when it comes to this part of the world, which is very strange because you can go to other places in Antarctica and it will load. I mean, even just here, that already looks, you can see there, it's buffering, it's rendering, it's already looking a bit crispier. So, and it's still improving now. So you can see there is already a little bit of strangeness going on around here. But look, that is only the beginning. Let's jump back over here. So, as I said, when we talk about the strangeness of this place, right? We know that prior to World War II in the 1930s, the Germans had an expedition going to Antarctica where they claimed a section of the ice, and they called it New Schwabenland, or also New Swabia, I guess is kind of like a English take on that name. So you can see that's a little red section there on the globe. And that was in the 1930s, right? Now, there are claims that the Nazis established a base here, and some even say that Hitler and some other top-ranking Nazis fled here through Argentina to escape death in World War II. Now, there's no definitive proof of that, but it is very well documented that the Nazis, specifically Heinrich Himmler, who was, you know, being told as one of like the most evilest men as part of the Nazi regime, he was obsessed with the occult, with magic, and with ritualistic practices. Like this is, as you can see here, very well documented. And there is people who claim that their Antarctic expedition was actually to search for artifacts of hidden knowledge to do with extraterrestrial species that all came through their work and research within the occult. Now, after World War II, there was Operation High Jump. Now, this was a fleet of over 4,000 men, 4,000 United States military, and not just men as well. There was large ships that went there. Like this essentially was like an invasion of Antarctica, but it was told as a scientific expedition. So this was apparently just a conventional scientific expedition for research, led by one of the top admirals in the Navy at the time. There are stories that a lot of people didn't make it back, and that why did you need so much military force to go for science? Now, there are a lot of people who claim that what they found during Operation High Jump was anything but a conventional scientific research, and I'll show you what that could have been. If we slide this over here. That's right. We're talking about UFOs with swastikas on them. So these are some of the claims that have come out from Admiral Byrd's diary years after this happened, that he had encounters with UFOs that has swastikas on them, extraterrestrials, and that he also was flying over a part of the land that was lush, green, and teeming with life. And this was all sort of amongst and beyond the ice. Now, obviously, I can't prove that. There is no verifiable proof of that. But it is certainly strange given the secrecy around Antarctica, right? Nobody can go to Antarctica, at least without being granted the permission. And that permission is usually only granted to you to do something specific. Like it's not a holiday place. You can't just go. It is, and that's weird, right? When we look at how people around the world, nations around the world, war and fight and kill each other over territory and land, because the more you have, I mean, the stronger you are, the better position you have. It's strange that all of these people who fight each other for land have said, you know what, that piece of land, we'll stay out of that one. No one can have that one. Like, why? It's weird, right? Now, that's not all. We've got one more thing before we get into the 4chan story. One thing we do have proof of as well. So now we have proof of this, and that is that there are pyramid-like structures within Antarctica. Okay, so this is some photographs of that. We aren't told anything about this. There's no information. These are all just photographs that people have found through satellite imagery and Google Maps, right? Now, on top of this, there was actually, before we go any further, just to reinforce my point, what a coincidence. Once again, we're not told anything about these pyramids, right? But all the famous pyramid structures around the world all seem to be set out in the same pattern, and that the pattern mimics the same pattern as Orion's belt. But if you point that out, you're a tinfoil hat person, because it's obviously just a coincidence, right? Of course it's a coincidence. Anyway, the last thing I want to point out is that Buzz Aldrin, so one of the second man on the moon, I'm pretty sure that's right, second man on the moon, was there for allegedly scientific research in 2016. He made this tweet, which is a picture of a pyramid-looking mountain structure, and he said, "We are all in danger. It is evil itself." And he was also emergency evacuated out of Antarctica to New Zealand, which was cited as I think it was like altitude sickness or something like that. That's what we're told. Now, of course, this tweet was immediately deleted, and all of the mainstream outlets said that the tweet was fake and that he was evacuated for altitude sickness. Okay, so that was the story that we were given. But remember, the people who told us that story are the same people who told us that we need to invade Iraq because they have weapons of mass destruction, which they actually didn't. They're the same people who said that you needed to take a vaccine because it will stop the transmission, which it actually didn't. And then, of course, they also told you that Donald Trump is actually Hitler. And whether you like him or not, we can probably all agree that he actually isn't. So look, just a bit of background context around the strangeness of Antarctica, which is where this crazy story has taken place. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We'll get into I'll show you guys the video first. I'll show you the video and then we can talk about it and get into the 4chan thread. Now, there's no sound on this video. It goes for 20 seconds. So you can see that it's very similar to the Jake Barber video. I'm going to make it a bit smaller now. This is very similar to what we saw with Jake Barber. So it looks like night vision. We can see those kind of snowy mountains up here and sort of down here. You can see the ridges kind of covered in snow. This looks like to me though that it's being filmed. This is a video of a screen playing this video. This isn't the real video. This is someone filming it, and you can see that there by those. Why is it so hard to point? By those edges that kind of come up here around the start of the video, and also here you can see just now. Look at these edges. That's obviously the edge of a frame. You can also see that throughout the video, the camera's point of view seems to be slowly elevating. So I guess that makes sense if this is like a helicopter's winch with a cradle with this object in it, that this is slowly ascending out of the cave system that this allegedly came from. So yes, from this video, there's not really a lot more that we can get, but the photos and the responses that this person has given are really interesting. The photos especially. So I might let this just play up in the corner here while we go through the thread for a little bit until we get to the photos. Let's just stick this up here for now, and then we'll get into the responses. And there's a fair bit to go through here, so we'll try and not waste any time. So this is the first post that they made with the video. They said the video you're about to view features a UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon, recovered in Antarctica in 2022. In contrast to the recently disclosed footage from 2 days ago, the UAP in this video is of ancient origin and was discovered within a cage. Ask me anything. So again, if you're not familiar with 4chan, basically the green text will always be the question that they're replying to, and then it will be his reply. Sometimes this does get a little bit messed up, but I will try and make it clear for you as we go, and I'll try and fix the size of this as we go. So who are you? Next question. Where did you get this video? Antarctica, November 2022. Did you take this video? No. Why does it look extremely similar to the News Nation video? Same civilization and same purpose. So he's obviously referring to the egg there. I'm not sure if the person meant why does the video look the same, but it sounds like he's talking about the egg. Why now to release this? I can't answer that. So this one didn't have the actual question on it, but it says, it seems to be of ancient origin. There is no way of getting inside of it, but it doesn't seem to be hollow. It's not that heavy and the material is unknown, but it is some kind of metal. Someone asks, can you tell us who you worked for and what was your job? Department of Defense. Same task force as Jake Barber? No. Can you share any details whatsoever on the object? It seems to be of ancient origin. There is no way of getting inside of it, but it doesn't seem to be hollow. It's not that heavy. The material is unknown, but it's some kind of metal. Repeating himself. Why did you put civilization in quotes? What was found inside the cave was more like a military base than a civilization. I don't know what these non-human entities were doing. The place was abandoned. If you didn't record it, who did? UN Office for Outer Space Affairs. What were you doing in Antarctica of November 2022? Retrieving ancient artifact or technology. We found a live, non-human, sentient being within a coffin-like pod. It doesn't use cryogenics, but it has kept the entity alive. What is the provenance of this video file? The video was recorded by UN Office for Outer Space Affairs. Antarctica is no man's land, so this was a team effort. The pilots were American, but most of the scientific and archaeological teams were European. Got any proof or documentation that this actually happened besides the video? No. Got more videos or photos? Many more, you wouldn't imagine. I think I'll be authorized to post more soon, but for now you'll have to be satisfied with this. The creature was found in a pod. Did you look at it? I have photos of them. They are 8 feet tall, white long hair, and a human face, yet there is something off. The entity is alive and recuperated quite fast from their sleep. Queen Elizabeth Mountain Range. Is that where you found these things? Yes. Got any word on other whistleblowers coming out soon? No, but I wouldn't trust most of the ones you see on those Congress streams. There are two groups, as most of you know here. One wants disclosure, the others don't. Let's just say the others are presenting you bullshit. You're getting more info here, now. Did you interact with it? No, but I spoke with someone who did. The entity learns quite fast. They learned English and German in less than a week. Now, I'm not sure if I caught the parts where he says it, but the person who is speaking here and answering these questions has said that he is German, and later on he does answer some questions that are asked in German with German. I didn't grab those ones and I didn't bother trying to translate them, but there's a bit of context. So there are ranking members with access to this info actively giving authorization for release. Here are two groups, as most of you know here. One wants disclosure, the others don't. Let's just say the others are presenting you BS. You're getting more interesting and real info in this place, to be honest. Let's say I am one of the good guys. Male and female creatures, would you say they are attractive? The one we have in Europe is male. I'd say they are attractive features, strong chin, blue eyes, white blonde hair, and so on. What were they wearing? This one was naked when we found him. Any symbols on the craft or anything? No symbols on the egg, nothing. Inside, we did find some things with symbols, but this is as far as I can go. Sorry. Now, let's just press the pause button for a sec. First of all, it's interesting that the most pressing question on a 4chan member's mind is wanting to know if the alien is sexy. And it's their lucky day because apparently they have a perfect male Chad specimen features, like a jawbone, 8 foot tall, blue eyes, blonde hair, the lot. So I'm sure that person's going to be having a good day. But there was some controversy on the second question, which is where they asked about the markings on the egg. Now, he said that there was no symbols on the egg, and then he goes on to say inside we did find some things with symbols, but this is as far as I can go. A lot of people began calling him out in the thread saying, you said you couldn't get inside the egg, now you're saying there's symbols. But my interpretation of this was that the symbols were inside the cave and the egg, like inside the cave where they found the egg, not the egg itself. And I'm pretty sure if you reread that, that is what he is actually saying. Now, be prepared because this next slide, the degeneracy goes to a new low. So I'm just giving you a little warning there. Now, did the being have human-like genitals? Yes and no. The penis is similar to that of a human. We do have photos of it, but the tip is similar to that of a chimpanzee's. The scrotum is just like ours. And the person replies, fascinating. Can't remember what a chimpanzee penis looks like. I'll have to research to get a better idea of this creature's penis. Yeah, okay, bro. It's for research. Okay. Did he talk through vocals or telepathy? And the person responds, he can do both, yet the second form only works with some of our teams. Some of the people who interacted with him didn't listen to his telepathic communication in their heads. According to him, it has to do with acceptance. And this is something that we hear a lot with people talking about and discussing telepathy, is it needs to have both people kind of being open and willing to engage for any connection to actually happen. How did his voice sound? According to the astrobiologist I spoke with, the voice sounds like your own. It's strange. He basically said it sounds like when you're thinking a monologue. So the voice that's in your head is like the voice you hear when he is communicating to you. Can you let us know anything that he said? Many things. He was born here 700 years ago. He says the closer we got to understand God was the corpus hermeticum. He considers us selfish and childish. He says we were happier during his time. Can't tell you more than this. Their race saved us millions of years ago from our creators, who basically engineered us to serve them. Earth should be treasured. It's a miracle. What info do you have about their origin, culture, and reason to be there? We're still trying to understand their origin. His notion of space and time is different from ours. They came here as space missionaries. When they arrived, another advanced race was already here. The other race created Homo Neanderthals to serve them and help them take Earth's resources. However, it was a failure, and Homo sapiens were created later on. When the space missionaries arrived, in quotes, They entered into a war with the other race to save us. Since then, they have been protecting us. In fact, back in 1975, they stopped a nuclear war. The other race, according to the entity, represents what could become if we don't change. Represents what we could become if we don't change. Advanced oppressors with no spirituality to guide us. Their last conflict here on Earth occurred in 1561 during the celestial phenomenon over Nuremberg. So there's a couple of things here to look at. First of all, he says the closest we got to understand to God was the Corpus Hermeticum. And I did pull that up for you. Let's get rid of that video. So the Corpus Hermeticum, if you don't know what this is, it's a series of 17 Greek writings whose authorship is attributed to a Hellenistic figure named Hermes Trismegistus. I had a crack at that. It's a tough word. But this figure, Hermes Trismegistus, is a combination of the Greek god Hermes and the Egyptian god known as Thoth, which, if you don't know who that is, that's the god, well, that's the Egyptian figure who is often depicted as having like a bird's head and like a long beak. So that is Thoth, and also Hermes, who is just depicted as a person. The person who is allegedly responsible for these Greek writings, the Corpus Hermeticum, is something that is a representation of the both of them combined, which, despite me butchering the words, is very interesting. Now, the other interesting thing there was they mentioned Nuremberg, which is something we covered like, I don't know, a month or two ago. This one here, 1561, Nuremberg, Germany. So this is not just your average UFO sighting, and was basically what someone witnessed in the sky was like a battle that took place between these long pillars of light that I think were described as like long strands of reeds or grass, and there were like spheres and crosses and all these things, and then at the end of the battle, this long spear-headed black tip shape appeared in the sky, which is what you can see there, and that was kind of the end of it. So that's another historic case, and it's just interesting that got referenced there within this thread. Let's keep going. How can I be sure this is not a LARP? If you don't know what LARP is, it stands for live action roleplay, which is essentially people just making stuff up for fun. That's up to you to decide. I know what I have and what I shared. Also, what do you think of Elizondo? Is he a massive grifter, my favorite word, or saying the truth? Isn't he the one claiming aliens are demons? I wouldn't trust fundamentalist Christians pretending to be whistleblowers. Now, a couple of things here. The first question, he kind of doesn't care if you believe him or not, which, is always a credible thing. But also, LARPs have been around for a long time. It's probably also just as credible that someone who's trying to fool people isn't going to push it too hard, because then you seem desperate and obvious and then no one believes you. So just something to point out there. But also, he's saying like about Elizondo, isn't he the one claiming aliens are demons? I don't think so. I mean, I know he's mentioned it, and he's definitely mentioned that some people think that, but I don't know if... I mean, look, I could be wrong. I've listened to his book, and I can't remember. I've got a bad memory. So, I remember stuff that isn't important, apparently, but I can't remember that. So, if anyone wants to correct me in the comments on what Elizondo's actual take is, I don't think he outrightly thinks they're just demons. So, that's just an interesting thing, that if that is the case, and this person is wrong here, it kind of shows how out of touch this person is with like the mainstream narrative, which, if this is true and this person is retrieving eggs and whatever, it really would suggest that there are like just levels to this thing, complete levels to this thing. Who knows? The next question. Any questions you would ask other whistleblowers or leakers? He said no. Those who are telling the truth belong to the same team. Quotations. We already know what is to be known. I wouldn't want to ask anything from the others who are not part of my system, because everything they would tell would be either disinformation or lies mixed with the truth. There is an internal conflict within the government between factions. Let's just say I support the idea of humans knowing, once again, that we are not alone and that the gods are out there. And then someone said, got any code words we can Google? And he said, what is known is already known, and what is not known is not on Google. You'll get more info from books, even those from antiquity, like Plato's something. All right, I've butchered enough words. today. Next one. Were these creators of Neanderthals the Anunnaki? The Anunnaki was a human given name, but yes, the myth was born from that event. The entities that created us were, according to the one in the Antarctic cave, selfish, devoid of spirituality, materialistic, and parasitic. The conflict between these two groups has given rise to many myths in the human mind. Prometheus, Divus, Asurus, Satan, YHWH. I have no idea what that stands for. If anyone knows, please let me know. And so on. Why are they always hiding? They come from a culture where each sentient being must walk alone, and as he put it, be initiated through their own suffering. He claims they hide because there was a time when they were always with us, but we didn't evolve, we didn't develop. We were like children, and apparently we still are. Although he has been asleep for many years, he has maintained contact with the others through unknown means. He tells us that something big is happening this year. Are recovery missions coordinated through your single department, or are multiple nations involved under this UNOOSA directive? Multiple. What are the protocols for securing a crash site? Are private contractors involved, or is it exclusively handled by government agencies? Securing a crash site, especially one involving a UAP, is tightly controlled by government agencies. Military units establish a perimeter, assess hazards, and prevent unauthorized access. Private contractors may assist with logistics or technical support, but work under strict government supervision and NDAs. Communication is heavily encrypted, and materials are quickly transported to secure facilities. Secrecy and containment are the top priorities. What are the primary concerns during retrieval? Security, contamination, or potential retaliation? The primary concerns during retrieval include ensuring the crash site is contained to prevent unauthorized access and securing any sensitive materials. This is also a significant focus on preventing contamination, as the object could pose biological, chemical, or radiological risks. Specialized teams are equipped to handle these hazards while protecting personnel and the surrounding environment. Another concern is the possibility of retaliation, either from the origin of the object or from adversarial groups seeking to exploit the situation. Maintaining secrecy and operational control is essential throughout the process. And that was really interesting because that's like a stark contrast to what Jake Barber said in his story, where he experienced some extreme symptoms of like extreme radiation exposure. And he says we have these protocols and these processes to handle these things, but I was never told about that. So that suggests to me what we were retrieving, that they had no idea what it was. But this person is saying they do know what it is and they're aware of these hazards and that they have processes to work around it. Interesting. More details on the abandoned military base. The cave was enormous. I can share some photos in a few hours. By the way, I'm not suicidal. If I go silent without sharing anything else, fear the worst. I'm not joking. The base was underground, no tech, only the egg, the pod with the sleeping entity. There was a strange metallic box containing a few tomes or books in language which seems to be a mix of Sumerian and Proto-European. We're still analyzing it, but the entity refuses to give us any detailed description. Does the Nibiru Planet X myth hold any water as the home of the Anunnaki? It's a myth. The creators come from an unknown place according to the entity. They destroyed Mars civilization during a war also. All because Mars refused to be annexed to their empire. What happened to Mars was told time and time again by our saviors to our ancestors, and this is why Mars is seen as the planet of war and blood on many ancient cultures. Our creators are destructive, and we're not different, really. Are they the hidden ones in control and manipulation of the Earth hierarchy? They are. The Dwight Eisenhower alliance is real. And instead of accepting those who want to help us, he went with the creators. He and the other leaders traded civilians for small tech leaks. So what he's saying there is basically that the rumor that is rampant through UFO lore that President Eisenhower made a deal with extraterrestrials is true, and that it was basically you can abduct us and do what you need to do, and in exchange, you give us alien technology. And I mean, there's no verifiable proof of that other than it being a very common myth. But if you look at what happened to our technological advancements from the 50s, it has spiked and continued to spike exponentially way more than ever before. Okay. Like if you were to look at a chart, we were kind of trending like this with technology for a long time. And then all of a sudden it just went, whoosh. So make that what you will. Also, I will say there is part of that story is that there is an alleged video footage of a craft landing at Holloman Air Force Base in 1954. And that in this video, which high-level people say they've seen and is real, so this isn't just wackos out at Area 51, Rachel Little Alien saying this. This is, again, military people saying that they saw 3 beings step out of this craft and that they, from memory, were like a bit bluish tinted skin. But the interesting part is that they basically were wearing like Egyptian style headdresses, was like the best way they could explain it. They looked Egyptian the way they're depicted in hieroglyphics, which is extremely interesting, especially when we consider what this person said before about our closest thing to God is the Corpus Hermeticum, which was apparently written by something to do with the Egyptian god Thoth. So there you go. Next question. OP, would you comment on what lies are being told by the other faction? 1. Aliens are not demons. 2. There are no remote viewers finding UAPs. 3. There are no alien dead bodies. All are alive and work with us because they want to. Some because they want to continue with the abduction project, while others, like those working with us, want to see us flourish. If they wanted to leave, they would, and we couldn't stop them. They're hiding, and if we had dead bodies, believe me, they would fetch them in a heartbeat, whether we wanted it or not. They are not surrendering UAPs to us. These civilizations are millions of years old, and we are ants compared to them. Most retrievals are from ancient machinery, abandoned basically. They don't crash per se, although during their conflicts in deserted areas, we might find crashed ones. Are there defense plans in place for potential hostile encounters? Was there ever any hostile encounters with these things at all? Would you just shoot the motherfuckers? Real intelligent question here. The person says they are shootable. They're mortals, but their spiritual and psychic power is so no words. If you pointed a gun at them, they could probably force you into shooting yourself in the head. This seems like something out of a movie, but it's real. We tested it. Without guns, of course. The entity explained that we're all connected, therefore I can tap into you and you into me. Do you know if the drones and orbs we're seeing are related to this egg or pod tech that you've encountered? The videos I've seen of the drones are eerie as fuck. And he says some are eggs, other are orbs, the so-called Foo Fighters. So that was interesting that they touched on the drones. Now there was something I wanted to talk about there. The spiritual thing. That's right. Sorry, the psychic powers of like tapping into people's minds. What that sounds like is literally what Jedi power is like, where they can force people to they can like manipulate their free will. And it was I think it was in the last video where we talked about like briefly like the Men in Black and how I said using Hollywood movies, like a funny comedy with Will Smith about these men in black who come and suppress information when you have an alien encounter, which is something that is widely documented around the world, like James Fox has talked about, how they use their movies as the perfect disinformation tactic, because if anyone ever suggested that these men in suits came and visited them, everyone will just laugh at them and say you watch too many movies. Like, it is the perfect A1, tier 1 disinformation tactic, is to put the truth in a movie and kind of blend it in and make it funny and just, you know what I mean? I wonder if Star Wars is the next case of that, and we're going to have people who eventually learn how to manipulate other people with their minds and like legitimate psychic powers. Just a funny thought I had. Don't take it too seriously. We're just speculating here. Okay, the next one. This one's small for some reason. The CIA remote viewed a race on Mars that was 10 feet tall, I believe, and their planet had geologic problems. Do you know anything about this? Yes, we call it the temporal view. The remote viewer saw the past. In fact, he was seeing the last survivors of the Martian War. And the asteroid belt, from what I've read, is a destroyed planet. Sorry, that was another question. And he said, yes, it was a planet destroyed by the creators. I don't know how I feel about this person referring to them as Martians, like the Martian War, unless that is like an actual title that is out there somewhere that I don't know about. Like, I just feel like the term Martian is very like 1960s, like, ooh, green men from Mars vibes. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. He also said, do you think we inherit some generational trauma from the creators? How much of them is in us? From what I'm gathering, we are being helped by the handsome blondes, but it is ultimately up to us to change. That's a really cool question. He says, we don't have any of the creators working with us, sadly. They are working with the other team. So when he says us, he's referring to himself and his team, which he is referring to as the good guys who want truth out. And he is saying the creators are working with the other team. And as he said earlier, the creators are not good. They're working with the other team. Let's put it like this. So we can't be sure of how much DNA we share with them, but according to some of our cuckoo birds, we share a lot of DNA with them. I'm not sure what he means by cuckoo bird, but whatever. About the trauma. Well, trauma is continuous. What our ancestors suffered was transferred to future generations through social and genetic heritage. So yeah, I'd say we suffer now mostly because of our origins. So he's basically talking about generational trauma. And I mean, I think we already know that that's real, but this guy is saying it's not just with your mom or your grandpa or your dad or whatever. It's like becomes hard coded into your DNA all the way down the line. So you're probably inheriting shit from your DNA like hundreds or even thousands of years ago. How much range does telepathy have? Can we send a telepathic message to the aliens right now? He says, we're still studying their capabilities, but from our experiments last year, he could speak to some of us while he was locked inside a room. Okay, so it wasn't specific, but it seems like the range is not super far. Are the Nordics our creators, and are they also the actual angels mentioned in the texts? No, the closest thing to the so-called Nordics would be the entity we found. These are the ones who saved us. The creators are a mix between the so-called Greys and another race that we know nothing about. Yes, these are the angels and the gods. Do human beings have a non-local consciousness? If so, do we get to keep it after we die? He speaks of something similar to reincarnation. He even said something similar to Lavoisier. Comments below if you know what that is. Nothing is lost, nothing is created, everything is transformed. He claims we humans can reincarnate in other planets and universes. Also, do we get to interact with the NHI realm after we die? I'm not sure, sorry. So again, he's not trying to appease everybody and have answers to everyone's questions. When he doesn't know, he's saying that he doesn't know. It's just, I'm not saying it's real, but I'm just saying this guy doesn't really seem like he's trying to prove a massive point. What can you tell us about the Great Empire? He says the Creator's empire still exists, but there are wars outside of our system. NASA has some info about that, and even got some of their space probes destroyed when going outside of our system due to conflicts. The Saviors, or Nordics, don't allow any races to come to our planet, nor do they allow us to personally leave the solar system, because they fear that we will do the same as our creators did, due to us being childish. In the 60s and 70s, there were many races coming here, due to some internal conflicts, but since then the number of races have diminished. We have many illegals coming here. So, just like the United States, the Earth has its own illegal immigration problem. So, now we get to the photos. So what happened here, I'll just give you a bit of context, right? There was this initial thread that kind of went viral, and then he stopped replying. But he did say earlier in that he has photos and that he'll post them soon. So I think maybe like 8 hours later, there was a new thread that started, and he said, it's me again. As I promised a few hours ago, here are some of the photos of the Antarctica retrieval mission in Queen Elizabeth's Range. He says, photo 1 is the egg UAP. Photo 2 is the same thing at another angle. Photo 3 are the hieroglyphs on the cave's wall. 4 is the pod where the entity was sleeping. And photo 5 was the same thing, but from a different angle. So let's take a look at these photos. Let me get rid of this. So let's start off with the egg photos. This is the first one, right? Now, there was a little bit of a little bit of a question around the lighting in this photo and where the light source is coming from and how these shadows are behaving in the picture. Now let me just grab it and I'll try and discuss it with you. Okay. That'll do. So when looking at this photo, trying to think of where the light source is coming from, it's obviously, it really feels like it has to be coming from the left-hand side somewhere, right? Because you can see here, there is like this black here. So there's no light is hitting that. Actually, I think the light is coming from, so where this photo has been taken, if you took, I don't know, 6 or 7 steps around and to the right, because you can see the brightest part is being projected onto the wall there, right? You can see that light being hitting that wall and creating that reflection. But then behind the egg over here, we're not getting light. So you could assume that that's kind of like a right-hand side pocket of the light source that isn't getting caught. The egg is obviously getting caught by the light though, and by his account, the material that it is, it sounds like it's quite reflective. And you've also got these little parts of the rock, of the cave, I should say, sorry, just here, that look like they're sticking out a little bit, that have a shadow on the inside of the lip, which tells me wherever the light source is coming from, it has to be pretty much in front of that, like on the egg side of that little lip. Otherwise, you're not going to get a shadow there. That's going to be lit up too. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's tough, but there's somewhere between like there and this shadow down here that the light source is coming in at, because you've got shadows over there on the cave and you've got shadows over here on the right. So either this whole thing is fake, or you've got kind of like a narrow torch-like light source going on here. So that's the first photo anyway. The next one is the same thing in the same place. This one looks a little bit grainier. This one even looks like it might be taken a photo of a screen again. If we just go back, well, that's not back. You can see there like the quality difference. It feels like this is potentially the actual photo, or maybe not, and maybe just when the lens went on this shot, that, I don't know, it got more of the screen's light in it. I'm really not sure. But anyway, let's keep moving. So the next one was the hieroglyphics that was allegedly found in the cave. Now, I haven't done it yet because I just wanted to get this video out because it's so timely and it's happening. But I feel like if we took this through some software, you're easily going to be able to pull up what's going on here. And you can see there are obviously some definitive lines and stuff, but this photo isn't the best. I can't make out any like particular shapes per se, but there definitely is like some writing or something here in the center of the frame. And then on the left side, that almost kind of looks like, you know, when your car's back window is filthy and you draw on it with your finger, like that's kind of what that looks like. But maybe with a bit of software, if we played around with that one, we'd get a better look. And I may do that afterwards and I'll post it in the Discord. So now there were also photos of the pod or the coffin that this entity was sleeping in. And this is what they look like. So you can see there, it looks like an old bathtub. And that's kind of how he described it as well. And you've got those two little, it kind of looks like the top, it kind of looks like where the water is kept in a urinal. And when you walk away, that's where it flushes from. That little thing that's like suspended above the bath or the coffin, whatever you want to call it. So that's the first one. And then this is the next one. So again, quality's not amazing, but this is kind of like the alternate angle. You can see the same objects. It definitely looks like it's the same scene, but I would say that the first photo is probably much clearer. So what I might do, while we go through the rest of this, I'll just pop some of these up here so you guys can keep looking at them. And we'll go through the rest of the thread. What are you guys thinking so far though? Are you feeling LARP, or are you feeling like these are legit? Let me know in the comments. But like I said, I'm going to give you my take at the very end. Let me just get this last one in here for you. All right, this gives us something to look at other than my mug. All right, let's work with that. So let's continue on. This is the last section now, so there's not too much more to go, and we'll just pop them over here. So we've already seen that bit. So why was he there alone? He refuses to tell us and believe we didn't try. Did he say what this year's big thing would be? Is it good or bad? He speaks of countless natural disasters, a third world war, a looming conflict between his race and our creators. Tensions between the surface are apparently reaching a breaking point, and he speaks of a possible reset for human civilization so we can start all over again. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news there. Did the beings tell you why things were about to change in 2025? He speaks of countless natural disasters. Okay, he's just quoted himself there again. Fair enough. Did something happen to me? Yes, but I am okay now. Don't worry. Did any human walk alone and was initiated through his own suffering? Okay, I get what he's saying. Many. Actually, he speaks of Gautama and Jesus, but there are many others that we never knew about. Why do the photos have such noise and grain? Night vision, and these aren't the raw files. These photos were taken off of a monitor at an undisclosed location. So again, that's exactly what I said before, that even the video, you can tell that it's a video of a video, and these are photos of photos, and that's why the lighting and there's just like the data sucks, really. Got any more photos or videos of the inside of the caves? Yes, but legally, this is as far as I can go for now. Can you go deeper into the corpus hermeticum? According to him, the way the Hermes, not this word again, I'll try though. The Hermes Trismegistus speaks about God or the One is the most profound way a human can describe the divine. He believes that the books like the Bible and the Quran are merely reflections of humanity projected onto God, which I feel like that's something that is pretty like well accepted. The fact that the Bible and religions are really just humans trying to put into perspective some kind of ethereal experiences that they've had, right? I'm not a lot of what is in there is to be taken like as it is. It's sort of metaphorical or just being described the best way that people could at the time. Why didn't you mention the Battle of Basel in 1566? Was that different from Nuremberg? It was not related to the creators. It was between other races. Remember, we did and still have illegal races coming here. What are some examples of illegal races coming here? Like what species? What do they want? 74 BC Anatolia. The sighting occurred during the Mithridatic Wars. 1803 Hitachi Province, Japan. 1954 Italy. Rosa Lotti's case, and so on. What is the purpose of the reset and what will it achieve? According to him, mankind needs to start all over in order to become capable of reaching God, in quotes. Or so he says. He claims we are too corrupted. Are starseeds real? Do other species incarnate as humans to try and help, or is that bullshit? Yes, he does speak of interstellar bodhisattvas. Man, there are a lot of words in here that I've never had to say in my life, but I'm trying my best for you guys. So you woke him up, right? So what if you hadn't? Would he still be asleep, and how long for? Referring to this entity that was found in that bathtub. He was taken to a certain location. I won't disclose which one. And after a few hours, he woke up on his own. They didn't touch anything because they had no idea how that pod worked, and they feared meddling with it with the wrong thing would kill him. I think he was probably waiting for the team as if he knew. Did the Antarctic egg come into being? Did the Antarctic egg come into being that way as well? I'm not sure exactly what he's referring to here, but he said, this one was found next to an entity that had been sleeping inside a pod, not using cryogenic technology for 700 years. The egg is even older than that. As for the leaked video from the News Nation segment, I wouldn't trust it. Did he allude to the likelihood of a reset taking place? Yes. Interesting that he doesn't go any further on that. Is it very likely, or is there any factors that could make them decide otherwise? If mankind unites as one, and if we stop polluting the planet like we are. Actually, we'll finish this off. How do they even reset us? Massive destruction. Let's put it like this. They say they have to fight fire with fire. Wow. Kill most of humanity and destroy all signs that we existed. Flood the earth. That's the question. And he says, Atlantis and other older civilizations were destroyed by them in order to protect the world. So it's nothing new to them, really. What about people who are starseeds? They know this world is not going to last longer. I'm sure of it. Are you Jewish, OP? By the way, if you don't know, OP is the original poster. And he says, no, I am German. If I was Jewish, I wouldn't be disclosing. Believe me. So there's a lot in this one. There's a lot in this one. First of all, he basically is slandering the News Nation segment, which we'll get into that a little bit further. But yeah, he's saying he wouldn't trust. He's not directly saying it, but he's saying I wouldn't trust the News Nation segment, which is okay, fair enough. He didn't, when asked if he alluded to the reset taking place, he just says yes, rather than saying what the actual likelihood that he said. He just said yes, he did. Then he says, if the factors that could stop us, being wiped out is if mankind unites as one and if we stop polluting the planet like we are. And this is something that, like in the Ariel school sighting, these are the kind of messages that a lot of people seem to get downloaded into their brains when they have these sort of encounters with things that don't look human, that they telepathically are being told that you need to slow down with technology, you're destroying the planet. And yeah, I mean, if the Peru video that we did yesterday is to be believed, we share this with other people. Not people, sorry, with other species that are actually more advanced than us. And we are perhaps like the neighbor. We're like the share house, the neighbor that's a share house of like 19-year-olds who have parties every night. And like quite often you go out the front and there's like a shit-filled nappy on your driveway, or like someone's pissed in your letterbox. Like we are them. We're that house. And the aliens are just sick of it. That's what I think. And he talks about Atlantis and how they've been destroyed to protect the world. Again, all these themes are recurring, right? That we aren't important, humans, but the Earth is way more important, and that we are destroying it, and that if we don't stop, people or something won't let it be destroyed. And to do that, they will have to remove the people who are destroying it. And the last one, are you Jewish, OP? No, I'm German. If I was Jewish, I wouldn't be disclosing. Believe me. That part's interesting. I don't want to go too far into this, but if you've been around X or TikTok, even though it seems to be heavily censored on TikTok and even on YouTube, there are a lot of people talking about the disproportionate amount of Jewish power in the world, and that Jews who come from Israel, which is like one of the smallest countries in the world, seem to have like a lot of influence and a lot of power in the Western world. And I find this interesting. This isn't really my thing, I'm more of an alien guy. I want to talk about aliens and stuff, but it is very interesting. And yeah, it makes you wonder. Makes you wonder about World War II. It makes you wonder about some of the things people say, like look, I don't want to speak. I want to disclaimer this by saying, like I said, this isn't my thing. So I could be totally wrong here, but you hear things like there is in like the Talmud, which is like one of their writings about a deity or an entity called Moloch, who people allegedly sacrifice children to gain like favor and luck. Look, I've already gone way deeper into this. Look at what I'm saying. I've already gone way deeper into this than what I wanted to say. But those are the kind of things you hear about, and it's not my area of expertise. So I don't want to sway your opinion, but when you hear about things like that, and the weird things about Bohemian Grove and Diddy parties and power in America and Hollywood and all that kind of stuff. And then saying if he was Jewish, he wouldn't be disclosing it, believe me. And then he's talking about the powers that are trying to stop this stuff coming out. I've gone way deeper than I actually wanted to say because I couldn't help myself. So let's just move on. Anyway, the next question. If we sort of reincarnate, why do we lose our memories from previous lives? I assume it's also possible for other entities to reincarnate on Earth and they or we don't have memories about it. Earth is essentially like hell. Amazing. A place where those who reincarnate didn't have the best karma. There are countless planets like ours where the sentient population transforms their world into a realm of suffering and despair. Woo! Really stoked about that one. Was Bob Lazar, Jason Sands, Whitley Strieber, or the underwater UFO guy on 4chan telling the truth? Yes. If the good Nordics are so advanced, why can the Greys still hide and remain in underground places? Is it a manpower issue or is it a tech issue? He says, I wouldn't know, we never discussed that. Fair enough. Did the alien tell you his name? Good question. According to him, since they exist as a unified entity now, essentially functioning as a single collective consciousness, they no longer need names. Instead, they use a term akin to brother or sister, though it is completely genderless. Are you politely saying that we all probably have had bad karma and were actively bad people in a previous life? I didn't say it. It was him. Pointing the finger massively. The alien said it, not me. After knowing what I know, I would trust him with my life. Interesting statement. So this is kind of where the thread got a bit messy. So this is kind of skipping down a bunch because it did become clear that people seemed to be answering these questions pretending to be the original poster, because that's 4chan, right? You can, as you would have seen, if we go back, look at the top there, it says anonymous, but you kind of just understand the general flow of the conversation and the way that people are writing. And generally, like you heard them in that a couple of questions ago, they referred to the other 4chan whistleblower because it wasn't that long ago that someone had a really interesting thread, very similar to this, disclosing information about UAP, aliens, military involvement, all this kind of stuff. And that was a really interesting one with things that have seemed to have come true because he said things like, you'll find out in the next few years. And a lot of those things have come out. And when these threads kind of happen, as degenerate as people on 4chan are, it's not like often those things are allowed to be played out. Like people don't ruin and hijack them, at least not often. But for some reason, this thread started to go weird and he started saying like, that wasn't me. That reply wasn't me. Don't listen to him, blah, 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 blah. But there is obviously a way that you can set yourself a username within a board or within a thread. And from this point on, he kind of regained control of the conversation. And this is his new username. So it's OPIKJWNUL. I don't think that means anything, but he kind of was just saying like, look, you can see there, he goes, this is not me, by the way, it's the agents again. Basically, people are claiming there's like disinfo agents on there trying to ruin everything he's saying. But he's saying, I'm replying with this username now. So let's continue. Someone said, can we please get more details on where the natural disasters will strike? He refuses to tell. For now, he claims that if he tells us, we will change the destiny of mankind and that he will not allow. I live in Northern California, across the bridge from San Francisco. I have a small baby. Should we leave? He says, it's not going to happen yet. Don't worry. He assures us that there is still time for mankind. If we incarnated here because of our bad karma, why would we be allowed a miracle planet to exist on? That's simple. Miracle planets are essentially planets capable of sustaining life. Planets that can have life, specifically sentient life, are rare. What he told me is that mankind was better in ancient times. I think we can all agree on that. We attracted normal to good karma related souls. We became evil and corrupted, and we began spreading suffering and chaos. This began attracting souls with questionable paths. What is the most important thing a newly awakened starseed can do to be of service to the good in humanity right now? He says, spread kindness, equality, believe in a God who feels no anger or has chosen people. Meditate, something he, the entity, does a lot. and let people live their lives. It's not a complex message and it might sound cliche, but this is it. And yeah, I mean, who could argue with that, right? Just let people live their lives, be kind to each other. And if you are going to believe in something, probably maybe don't believe in something that tells you you're going to burn in hell if you don't listen to them. I don't know. That's just my opinion. Look, I'm sorry if that upset anyone, but you know, freedom of speech, right? Next one. One sec. There we go. According to him, the entity, God, is all and everything. God is every molecule, atom, and so on. All gods are one. This is what was taught in the past, and this is what the saviors want us to believe. Even an atheist who does good things is projecting God in the world. I was about to go on a little side tangent there, but I won't. What did he do or say to make you trust him with your life? It's hard to explain. Let's just say Barber, talking about Jake Barber, when he claims he felt God or a feminine side of God next to him, although he was lying, he did take that idea from some other people. Did he say why he is unwilling to tell you why he is here alone? And he said, not me specifically, but to my team. That's why I used a plural term. But yes, he refuses. So he's basically saying there that Jake Barber is lying. And, you know, I don't know how I feel about that. I'll give you like my full summary take of this stuff at the end. But I'll just say here that like, I feel like you should, you know, this guy said he's not related or involved with Jake Barber at all. So we can assume these people have never met. So if he's just learning about Jake Barber's account from the same way we did, from News Nation, to just come out and to have the confidence to definitively say that he is lying is very questionable, in my opinion. First of all, you're an anonymous person on 4chan versus someone who's put their face out there. So there's that. And also, like, to say that he's talked about a divine experience, right? Felt beautifully possessed or whatever. Who are you to say he didn't experience that? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That just feels off to me. I mean, I've said this before. Anyone on X or whoever who comes out and calls someone a liar, whether it's Lou Elizondo or whatever, if you're going to say it with such confidence as if it's true, you have to put some evidence on the table, because this is a topic where nobody knows. Like, nobody really knows who's telling the truth. So when you come out and are so confidently and arrogantly being like, he's a liar, he's a grifter, you kind of seem sus, because how the fuck do you know? You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, you can have your opinion and you can maybe connect a few dots and start to think a few things, but to come out and say it like it is true, you're just adding to the disinformation. You're just adding to the confusion because you don't know. So stop acting like you do. Sorry. Let me get a little drink. We get a bit worked up sometimes. Okay, next one. It's the rectangular box object that makes me think this is all crafted. Looks like a fucking Minecraft bed. I don't play Minecraft, but that is funny. I understand one of our archaeologists also commented on that. Apparently she plays Minecraft too. She said it was quite minimalist and simple, but as far as we know, saucer UAPs are also quite minimalist inside. That's literally what I thought of as I read that, is like the egg, whatever the eggs are the most minimalist things ever. They don't even have doors, they don't have seams, they don't even have writing on it. Like, that is minimalist to a T. Did the entity say anything about an afterlife? He speaks of reincarnation and karma-like concepts. What does he eat? He's a vegetarian. He refuses to eat meat. Does he think we shouldn't eat animals? Never spoke about our food habits. Why are people getting abducted? Because of the Eisenhower alliance with the Greys. Look it up. Most of it is true. Interesting there how he says most of it is true. And he's like, you know, he's saying like, yeah, the Eisenhower thing that we all hear about. Look it up. Most of it is true. Interesting. It's the egg-shaped UAP being retrieved. What you are seeing is the camera below the helicopter. The mission occurred during the night, hence the green color. Night vision. Sounds like he was lying about feeling Sophia. Now, I don't know what the context is here about Sophia, but I'll just read you the answer anyway. He was, but also wasn't. What he mentioned was something that we all felt during our multiple contacts with other entities, aside from the ones I've been mentioning. The government is using both truth and lie to control you. I don't know. When he says what he mentioned was something that we all felt before during our multiple contacts, if he's referring to Jake Barber there, I'm not sure. If anyone understands that or has context about Sophia, please let me know in the comments. What kind of clothes was he wearing? Was he naked? He was naked in the coffin. He was. Also, have they interbred with us or are we not genetically compatible? They did, and some humans still have their DNA. OP, do you still talk to the alien? How do you do that? I never did. I'm telling you what the astrologists have told me. I have documentations of the performed tests, Q&As, etc. But as I said, I do believe in him. If yes, why not ask him math science questions? For example, the Riemann hypothesis, we still have no proof. Maybe he can have a go at it. Good question. I think the guys at the lab will enjoy this. Thank you. As I understand it, it is very difficult to put this information out there. Would you get with any other sort of news distributor the way Barber worked with News Nation and deliver the information that way? Yes. On the 27th, you will get publicly informed. We are working with a European new network. That's interesting. We have, we have something to hold this person accountable for. And I mean, he says the 27th, we can assume that he is talking about this month, because otherwise he would have said the 27th of another month. And that is, for me, in Australia, in 5 days. So that is very interesting. I guess we'll see in 5 or 6 days what comes of this. Next one. Does it eat, sleep, shit, or piss? Yes. Laugh or have a sense of humor. His behavior is quite neutral. Doesn't smile, laugh, or get angry. Not that we tried to make it angry. Is it curious? Yes, a lot. We have been filling him in about our history and events. He learns so fast. In a few weeks, he learned German, English, and most of our known history. Some of it he already knew. In brackets. Does it ask for random stuff like a chair or clothes? Only clothes and some food. That's interesting. Next one. Oh, so you have videos with the alien. Yes. Now that brings this conversation to a new level. Anytime humanity can see this. I'm not sure. I'm waiting for that order myself. Why was he naked and without food when he was found? We are not sure yet, and he refuses to tell us much about the pod and how it works. He is quite secretive. Can you describe what he looks like? White blondish hair, strong chin and jawbone, blue eyes, quite shiny eyes. Tall, 8 feet tall, and quite fit with some visible muscle. So basically, he's just like an absolute Chad, perfect specimen. How does he sound when he speaks? Soft voice, quite androgynous, also a strange accent due to his native tongue. I assume he probably uses our tech to catch up. Like, does he have access to the internet or cell phones? He does have a HP laptop with internet. Like I said, we are not taking him hostage. Like some of you mentioned, he could kill us all, no joke. He seems to interact with some people on some forums related to nature and religion. He has been here before, according to his web history. So I think he's referring to the 4chan, which is /X, which is like the paranormal 4chan. What about learning? Is it a traditional learner, or is it using a different approach? He learned English and German in weeks. Also, he can now read, as you assumed from my first answer. So he's reading as much as he can online and physically. Any random bits of interest, like something unique or maybe too boring, like it bites its nails or fiddles around. According to one of our team members, he's literally a statue. Nothing. No shakes, no fidget, nothing. He can stay still like a rock for hours. Did it get stranded in the cave? He refuses to tell us why he was there in that situation. So that's interesting. That I just find those kind of details kind of interesting, right? Where he's talking about how he can just stay still like a rock for hours. Like, that's just a very odd detail, I feel like, to come up if you're making this up. I'm not saying it's true, but those like kind of odd specifics are the things that stick out to me. And when I think about, if you are making this up, what kind of details are you just going to skim over? What kind of details would you not think about? This kind of stuff, I don't know. It's interesting. Has he been exposed to animals? If so, how did they react to him? Not yet. What are the protocols to engage? Like, are there always tape going on, or must he be wearing a suit? His body is not radioactive, but the egg was. My colleagues have shacked hands with him. I don't know. Poor German to English. He obviously means shook hands with him. Does it fear death or shown what we could do or keep us from slicing? I don't know what slicing is, if that's a typo or not. He seems to be okay. He shows no fear, and we believe he doesn't fear death because he said things like, and I quote, "The body transforms into energy for your planet. The breath, soul rises and does not die." Anyone think it could not be biological? If it eats, how did it survive in the Arctic? He was inside that coffin/pod technology. We don't know how it works, but it did keep him alive. He refuses to disclose how it functions. Some of our engineers are trying to find out, but for now, no dice. So when he was saying he browses 4chan or has been on 4chan before, he's saying, yes, it was here on /X, but he doesn't comment. He only reads stuff. He does not speak in most forums aside from this one. And he linked a forum. And I have the picture. I went and got a picture of the forum because it was interesting that this alien allegedly likes to chat on. And let me find it for you. Here it is. I didn't bring it in earlier, but here it is. So as you can see, it's the onlinephilosophyclub.com. And interestingly enough, it says Philosophy Discussions Forums, a humans-only club for open-minded discussion and debate. And underneath, well, it also says a one-of-a-kind oasis of intelligent, in-depth, productive civil debate. And then I just threw together some of the threads and the titles of the threads that were there. So things like astrology has nothing to do with the stars and planets. What makes you believe that the God of your religion exists? What type of Christian are you? Atheism is not logical. Talmud, Torah, info about Jesus. So again, that's talking about Hebrew. Spiritual beings, we are not. Christianity, it's construction and deconstruction. Unity in diversity, the shared value of non-aggression. So these are the kind of things that aliens like to read about and talk about, apparently. So super in-depth philosophical questions about life and religion and the greater. Let's go to the next one. Whoops. Anything about time travel? No. Any takes on our work with the collider, as he's talking about the Large Hadron Collider, as in he knows what we are doing, and if so, it's futile. Is the knowledge he has isolated to what he knows, or is it a superior genius, all-knowing type? He hasn't spoken about that yet, as far as I know, though it is a good question. Thoughts on vampires given the coffin age and looks. Interesting. Square, simple, metallic. There's a glass to see the person sleeping, and there is some unknown tech on top of it. So I think the question was given the fact that this guy was found in a coffin-looking thing, he's 700 years old with pale skin, vampire, anything about vampires. But I think this person took the question as if to say, what does the coffin and what does it look like? And he's saying it was square, simplistic, metallic, and a glass to see the person sleeping in there on top. And then the unknown tech that looks like the urinal flusher. I'm sure it's just as complicated as a urinal flusher. OP, did the aliens say anything about the New Jersey drones, their purpose or origin? He did. He said it's his kin telling us we're still here. It's to make us aware. We believe we might see one of them presenting themselves to the public soon. So that's interesting. Basically saying that the drones are of a non-human origin, at least some of them. And we might be seeing one of them presenting themselves to the public soon. Now, this is something that was going around X and all the platforms recently about a ship presenting itself around Pensacola, which is, I think in Florida or near Florida, southern part of America. And this is something that like Bashar has been saying for a while too. So like a lot of channels were like relaying this kind of thing, saying there's going to be something presenting themselves. I don't know. If you guys have heard stuff about that, or if you have any information about that, let me know. If humanity, the US government, has an alliance with the Greys, why is their enemy, this entity, cooperating with us? The Greys work with our creators. They are like their slaves, and yet the Greys are the genetic parents of the creators. Weird. Does he have any thoughts on our alliance? He says we are too materialistic and that we fell for a trick like children. Has he told us when we should... Is that even a word? I don't know. But apparently, oh yes. Okay, keep going. This is the last one. This will be my last update. I must disconnect now. I'm sorry, but I'm sure we will meet again shortly. I will try to answer one question on each of the last posts. What does he say we got the most wrong in terms of our law? Nothing, never spoke about it. How many of these beings are out there? Thousands, specifically or especially underground, though some walk around in public. What are the 2 boxes behind the coffin bed? He says it's only 1 box. That box contained tomes or book-like objects. We're still studying them. The other object is probably just ice or rock. Interesting. So you guys can't see my cursor, but you can see the image there on the left-hand side. I think the taller one in the middle is likely the object that's part of it because it's central and you can kind of see something that seems to be connecting it. And that little one off to the right is perhaps just something in the background. Interesting. Would you submit evidence to News Nation or Ross Coulthart? I'd rather stay away from charlatans. Time will come when we will communicate our findings through an honest news station in Europe because there are still honest news stations out there. Be safe, everyone. I'm sure we'll see each other again. Thank you all for your support. Our interactions here will be known by the entity. Have a wonderful year. And that's that. So, a lot of things are interesting there. Some compelling answers. The photos are very interesting. But with what's happened in the last few days with the Jake Barber story, you know, this guy's basically outright calling Jake Barber a liar. And, you know, up until that point, when you're reading this, it's kind of like exciting. It's like, yes, you know, like we're getting, you know, all these things are starting to add up. We're finding another egg, you know, all these things are coming together. But then when they start pointing at each other, calling each other liars, it just is like, man, it's so disappointing. And like I said earlier, like, how can this person definitively know what Jake Barber's experience is a lie? You know, if it truly was some kind of divine intervention that he felt like in his mind and in his body, how can anyone else come out and say you are lying? You know, like that is, I mean, he could be lying. Of course he could be lying, right? That's obvious. But no one can prove that. Nobody can prove that. So it's sus to me when someone says it like they know it. But who knows? Maybe they know something that we don't. So what I'll say is about this is that it's interesting. The photos are all compelling. I think we should all take this and just put it to the side. Just put it to the side. Doesn't mean fully disagree with it. Doesn't mean write it off as a hoax. I think we should just keep this over here for now and just remember it and know that it's there and see what else comes in the future. Because at the end of the day, he called Ross Coulthart a charlatan, which, you know, I've made my feelings about Ross pretty clear. I think Ross is as honest as it comes, I believe, and I feel confident in that belief. But there is obviously the chance that Ross, although him being honest, could be being led up the garden path. I don't believe that to be the case, but of course it's a possibility. And, you know, this person's calling them all charlatans, which kind of just makes it even all more confusing, doesn't it? Because they seem to be retrieving and dealing with the same things, but now apparently the other people who are doing the same thing are all liars. So, you know, that makes it really tough. But personally, at the end of the day, when I can't prove Jake Barber and Ross Coulthart and the anonymous guy on 4chan, I can't prove either of their stories, I feel like we all owe it to ourselves if we're going to subscribe sort of fully, which you should never do. If you're going to lean into either of these stories, you should lean into the one that have faces presented on them, I think, because, you know, believing an anonymous thing on 4chan, as interesting and compelling as all the evidence is and the answers, we don't know who the fuck this person is. This could be the alien. It could be an alien trying to trick us all. It's literally, who knows? So I think we owe it to ourselves to keep our ears open to what Jake Barber and Ross Coulthart has to say. But of course, if anything more comes of this, which apparently it's going to, I'll be talking about that as well. So we'll be keeping you guys in the loop with everything that's going on. In regards to Jake Barber and Ross Coulthart, there is meant to be the full version of Jake Barber's interview being aired soon. Apparently, it's like 2.5 hours where he goes more into depth into all of the topics that they were covered. And personally, I want to know more about those Panasonic Tough books. Like, what we're having like inter-government shootouts over these books in secret up in the mountains. And like, if you saw my episode, you realize how confused I am about that. But like, there are these books that the people at the highest levels of the military are getting intelligence for, that like are in a safe, in a lake at the top of the mountains. And they go there and they realize another government has already beaten them to it. Like, this shit sounds like the Hunger Games. Literally, like aliens are doing Hunger Games on humans to like help them like to win and learn little bits of information. Like, that is how that segment came across to me. How the fuck are these books getting in the top of the mountains? Who's putting them there? Who's stealing them? Who's telling people where they are going after they've been stolen? I can't. Like, that you'll see if you've seen my video. I didn't know what to say after that. Like, there is just way too many questions about that. So that's that, guys. I'm sure we're all going to find out more as time goes on. I'm excited. We're going to be covering all of it. There's going to be videos on this channel probably almost daily at this point because it just doesn't stop. And like I said, I'm not mad about it. Now, guys, if you don't already, please follow me on my socials. That's my TikTok, that's my X, and that's my Instagram. I do post across all of them. And also, I want to give a special shout out to the members, which are the guys who support me by just going the extra mile here. And I'm trying to fix it so you guys can see all the names. These guys subscribe to me for just an extra $5 a month. They get a little bit of extra content over in the members section, which there's stuff in the works, but also their own channel in Discord. And it really honestly just helps me get this content out for you guys all the time. And on the topic of Discord, please join. If you use Discord, it's open to everybody to talk about these kind of things, these eggs and everything that's going on. So if you want to get involved in the conversation, please join. The link will be in the description below. While you're there, like the video, share it around, get the word out, make sure you're subscribed, and I'm sure I'll be seeing you very soon.